Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm showcasing to you a very cool build that I came up with all thanks to a single item, and I absolutely love it. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now let's get started with that item. What item are you talking about? Well, Penitent Greaves is a secret unique boot that you get, which gives you an aspect that leaves behind a trail of frost that chills enemy. Now that that chill effect allows you to deal 9% more damage to chilled enemies. Now this is a very cool effect, but more importantly is what we can do with it. So let's go into the abilities. Our first ability, or basic ability, is going to be Puncture, and we're going to move towards Fundamental Puncture because we want that vulnerable. We want to make sure that we can hit the enemies and make them vulnerable. Moving on, our core skill is going to be Twisting Blades. Very important, and even after the nerf is still very viable. We're going to go to Advanced Twisting Blades because it's just the way to go. You don't want to take Improved Twisting Blades at all. The passives that we're going to be taking on our core skills is going to be Sturdy and Symphonic. 3 points on both. Very important because these help us to stay alive. Very important. Moving on to agility skills, we're going to take 1 point on dash and 1 point on enhanced dash. These will give us a 15% increased critical strike damage to the enemies that, well, we dash to. Then more importantly, we want to take concussive passive. After knocking down an enemy, you gain 12% increased critical strike chance against them for 3 seconds. This does fantastic synergy with Potion Trap, which we're also going to be using. And also we're going to be taking Weapon Mastery. This gives us a 15% increased damage to healthy enemies with daggers, which is the two-handed weapons that I highly recommend you to use, especially for this build. Moving on to the subterfuge skills, we're gonna be taking Poison Trap. 1 point on Poison Trap, 1 point on Enhanced Poison Trap, and 1 point for countering Poison Trap. In countering Poison Trap, for that 30% chance to reset our imbuement cooldowns, and that Enhanced Poison Trap to knock down the enemies and get that critical strike chance that we were talking about just a moment ago. We're also going to be taking the Exploit passive and the Malice passive, 2 points on each. Exploit allows us to get to do 12% increased damage to healthy and injured enemies, and Malice gives us 6% increased damage to vulnerable enemies. Moving on to our imbuement, we're going to be taking Shadow Imbuement. We're going to put 5 points on Shadow Imbuement, 1 point for Enhanced Shadow Imbuement, and 1 point for Blended Shadow Imbuement. Now, why are we putting 1 point on Enhanced Shadow Imbuement? Because we get that 15 increased critical strike chance against injured enemies infected by Shadow Imbuement. That's huge. And we also get that Primary Explosion that makes the enemies vulnerable for 2 seconds. And then we're going to be taking the Precision Imbuement that gives us that 9% increased critical strike chance for our imbued abilities. And before we move on, we want to make sure we take Deadly Venom, not because we want the poison extra damage, but because we want the debilitating toxins. Enemies that are poisoned by our Poison Trap deal 15% less damage towards us, therefore more survivability. And you will need it, trust me, we rogues are like glass cannons. We die very easily. Now, on ultimate skills here, I want to make a point here. Death Trap is not a necessity. You don't need it for this build. You can put something else. I just take it because I have a sacred unique item that actually does a very good synergy with Death Trap. That's the only reason I'm using it. But this, you don't need it. The last ability, you can choose something else. For example, Shroud. Dark Shroud that gives us that critical strike chance as well. That is way better than Death Trap, but I'm using it because of a unique item that I currently have, and that's the only reason. But I highly recommend you that while you don't have that unique item, you can definitely go for Dark Shroud, and this gives us survivability and critical strike chance that is going to be fantastic. Trust me on that one. But the passive that you really want to take from ultimate skills here is going to be the Trap Mastery. Why is that? Well, when you drop a Poison Trap or a Death Trap, you gain 12% increased critical strike chance against vulnerable and, more importantly, crowd control enemies for 4 seconds. So everything comes down to this, right? The enemies that are nearby me are being affected by crowd control of the shields. And also, if I drop my Poison Trap, I get that crowd control of poison as well. Now, there's certain aspects that I have on my items that also have synergy with these. So I think you start getting the idea. Moving on, before we go to the key passive, we're also going to be taking Adrenaline Rush. That gives us a 15% increased energy regeneration. And Impetus, because after moving 15 meters, your next attack deals 25% increased damage. I think you're starting to see that I really want to do as much damage as I can in the minimum amount of time as possible. So the first attack has to be the strongest, right? So our key passive is going to be Close Quarters, because it gives us a 10% attack speed for 8 seconds. But more importantly, while the attack speed bonuses are active, you deal 20% increased damage against crowd control enemies. Yes, that's correct. Anybody who's chilled around me gets 20% increased damage against them. That's why I'm taking it. Now, let's go to the Paragon. Here, we're going to be taking two very important things. We're going to be moving through the right, get that extra damage, and get that combat glyph. Why? Because every critical strike restores 12% of the energy cost. Therefore, always having that energy up and not having to worry about the energy. And then we're going to try and get that Deadly Ambush on the next Paragon page, which gives us a 23% increased critical strike damage to enemies affected by our traps. But more importantly, we're going to try to get the glyph socket, and in the glyph socket, we want to make sure we use Exploit. Why Exploit? Because Exploit gives us a 5%, sorry, it gives us, allows us that every enemy that we damage, they become vulnerable automatically. So we just do way more damage. So let me just read it for you. Exploit. When an enemy is damaged by you, they become vulnerable for 3 seconds. This cannot happen more than once every 20 seconds per enemy. So this is huge. And that's what we want as a second glyph. Very strong glyph. Absolutely. Now let's move on to our aspects. And here is when you're going to say, like, holy shit, everything makes sense. So let's go into it. Starting for our helmet. This is our insurance. Right, when damaging an elite enemy grants you a barrier absorbing up to 1,382. Like you go in and you get the barrier, so you're feeling fine because you have that little insurance of a barrier, right? Our second is skills. Basic skills grant us 20% damage reduction for 6 seconds. That's massive. Again, we want to really stay alive. I think I really make that very clear. Now, on our arms, our imbuement skills effects have a 30% increased potency against vulnerable enemies. That's why we want the enemies to be vulnerable. And then here, this is the sacred unique that I was talking about earlier, right? Unless it hits a boss or a player, Death Trap will continue to rearm itself until it kills an enemy. However, Death Trap's cooldown is increased by 18%. Like I said, if you don't have this item, you don't really need it. You can use Dark Shroud or something else. There's so many other alternatives for aspects that you can put on your pants or somewhere else. You don't really need that, and you don't really need Death Trap. I mean, you could use it because of that critical strike passive, but that's why you have Poison Trap, right? Anyway, moving on. We have the Chill's Boots that we were talking about at the beginning. And on our two-handed weapon, which is our bow, we have our Twisting Blades Orbit that goes around us. I got lucky with a pretty decent one that deals 28% of the Twisting Blade return damage per hit. And based on the distance, the blade returns the orbit damage increase up to 56%. So it's very freaking good. Then on our amulet, we're gonna get skills deal up to 24% increased damage based on your available primary resource when cast, receiving the maximum benefit while you have the full primary resource. So that's why I want to have my energy always at 100%, because that my abilities will do a lot of damage if I have a lot of energy. All right, moving on. Killing a vulnerable enemy grants you 62% increased energy regeneration for 4 seconds. Again, I want to have that energy as much as I can. And then making on my other ring, making an enemy vulnerable has up to a 50% chance to grant 3 increased critical strike chance for 3 seconds, up to 9%, right? So that's why we have our basic, always making enemies vulnerable, getting that critical strike chance as high as we can, so we can do as much damage as we can in the shortest amount of time possible. Then on our left weapon, we're gonna have damaging a shield or a frozen enemy with a shadow imbuement, and this is why we're using shadow imbuement. A skill has, oh, sorry guys, oh my god, sorry. Damaging a shield or a frozen enemy with a shadow imbuement skill has up to a 75% chance to release an explosion that deals 574 cold damage to the targets and surrounding enemies, chilling them for 15%. So you have the idea, right? The guys get chilled near me, they get attacked by me, they get more chilled, and boom, boom, boom. The effect just repeats itself, right? Attacking, and on my other weapon, attacking enemies with basic skill increases the damage of your next core skill cast by 10% up to 30%. So the more basic attacks I deal, the more damage my twisting blades is gonna do. So just to give you an idea, oh, I might have jumped a little bit too much. I am here fighting against guys on, what's the name, level 73 plus, while I am level 59, and you can see just how crazy the, what's the name, the critical strike chance is, right? Like, it's just, it's there, it does the damage, it does the work. Oh shit, these guys are actually very annoying. But yeah, I think you get the idea overall of how I'm trying to make this work. It's very freaking good, it's very strong, and I mean, it just works. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that while I'm doing this video, I'm going to be showing some clips here in the middle above me, so you can have a better reference of damage and how it works. But I just wanted to give a quick example right there. Again, I'm level 59. These guys were level 73 plus, and it just works. It's such super good build. Anyway, let me know what you think. If you think it's a good build, or if you think you can improve it in some way, please let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you think it's a horrible build, I would also love to hear why you think that. And if you think it's a great build and that I help you in one way or another to make your build or improve your or something, please leave a like and subscribe. That it really helps my channel and makes my day. Anyway, Torres signing out. See you in the next one.